Any hint at a VP?
Well, I have a lot of good people. We had a lot of them here a couple of days ago on the stage, and we really do. Who do you like?
Honestly, Tucker Carlson. I think he'll give the truth. He'll speak the truth.
A lot of people don't disagree with you.
I want the truth. And
Tucker is a good man. I will tell you. He's been a good man. He's been a friend of mine. He loves our country, I will tell you. You like Tucker?
I love Tucker.
Who do you like?
I like Tucker Carlson.
Who do you like?
I'm from Europe.
Oh, well, he likes Macron. He likes Macron for VP. Let's take a little choice.
Senator Scott.
Who do you like? A couple of names. Throw out.
Tim Scott.
It came out just this morning from Axios. It's unconfirmed. We don't know if it's true, but this is what they're reporting based on two anonymous sources. Trump quietly moves Nikki Haley, off his blacklist. Now, it's important to note, spokespeople for Trump and Haley declined to comment to Axios, but this is one of those D.C. whisper things. Do you think could be true that Trump would want to bring Haley into their orbit as a potential running mate?
I don't see it as a running mate. I really don't. I think that's not I think it wouldn't be a good working team. Forget how anybody feels about that. Look, moving someone off your blacklist, politics is transactional. Donald Trump is a businessman. And they say, look, if we can get her people to realize that this is the way forward for the Republican Party, he's a uniter. What's the difference between Trump and Biden and how he would approach that? Look at DeSantis. They've talked recently, according to reports. He's bringing the party back.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about this rumor from the mainstream liberal media. A pretty insane rumor about Trump reportedly considering Nikki Haley, Nimrata, to be vice president. Now, this rumor is kind of a big deal. It got a lot of headlines because Nimrata has been nowhere to be found after dropping out of the GOP primary. Now, if you guys remember, Nimrata essentially made herself a political cancer to the Republican base because she decided to stay in the GOP race and to continue to hurt Trump politically, even though it was clear that she did not have a path to victory, okay? Even after losing in her home state of South Carolina, getting blown out, she continued to stay in the race for much longer than she should have, forcing Trump to use campaign funds to advertise against her, and ultimately she contributed to continuing to divide the party for her own selfish reasons, even though it was clear that she could not win. And she continued to show that, hey, she's not really a good sport, that she's not really putting the party first, or really the country first, to be quite honest with you. After dropping out, she, unlike DeSantis, has not endorsed Trump yet, okay? In fact, she's holding out her endorsement because she wants Trump to promise to be a neocon in exchange for her endorsement, and that's why she still has not endorsed Trump yet.
Donald Trump likes to appear confident. Here are his recent comments about winning over voters who supported Nikki Haley in the primary.
All of those people are going to come to me because first of all, what's their choice? Biden, he's the worst president in the history of our country. There's never been a president so bad. So he's incompetent. So they're all coming to me. We see it already. They're all coming to me.
Okay, fact check, though. Haley might be coming back to haunt Trump. NBC News has confirmed a Wall Street Journal report that she's been meeting with donors and has no current plans to endorse Donald Trump. And we've seen what has happened in key primary states where Haley was on the ballot even after she dropped out. Just this week, Nikki Haley won more than 20% of the vote in Indiana. So it's clear that Trump will need these Haley voters to win in November. So what happens with somebody like Nikki Haley? Does she just then stand silent, like once he becomes the actual GOP nominee?
Well, Nikki Haley has no plans, and the reporting is there, but I also have confirmation from people who are involved in her finance team that she has no plans to get behind Trump, at least not anytime soon. And then, Katie, you mentioned these voters, 20%.
That's wild.
The primary is over. Yeah. Haley is no longer a candidate, and people are going through the trouble of showing up to vote against Donald Trump. That is a problem for him.
Okay, but there's quickly. There's a difference between saying I'm not going to endorse Donald Trump and I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump, right? I mean, what are you hearing about that, though?
Well, I mean,
yeah, so you see now you heard that. Now, The amount of Nikki Haley supporters that are continuing to vote for her in the primary, despite the fact that she's not in the primary, is somewhat concerning, and it's kind of a big deal, but it's also kind of not a big deal. And the reason why it's kind of not a big deal is because a lot of those voters are Democrats. Probably about a fourth of them are Democrats. Some of them are independents, and some of them, probably half of them, are Republicans, okay? And with that being said, I believe that at least half of the Republicans that voted for Nikki Haley are definitely going to support Trump. But again, it's really hard to say because Nikki Haley supporters tend to be Democrats, right, and independents. Now, I'm hoping that a lot of these people will decide in November that, hey, I am going to vote for Trump due to the state of the economy and the fact that the Biden administration has been an absolute disaster. But again, it is a cause for concern to the point where I think it's fair to say that Nikki Haley's silence so far when it comes to endorsing Trump and putting the country first really says everything you need to know about her as an individual and her future in the GOP. Because if she wants a future in the GOP, then she's going to need to come out and to endorse Trump at some point, okay? Because if Trump loses the election because of Nikki Haley supporters deciding that, hey, we're not going to vote for him, or that they might vote for Biden, she's done, right? She's absolutely done. Either way, if she doesn't endorse Trump, she doesn't have a future in the GOP. So if she wants a future, she's going to have to come out and endorse Trump, as far as I'm concerned, because the future of the country is at stake, okay? And for as much as I disagree with the neocons, at the end of the day, I think there's more in common overall with the neocons and the base than there is with the neocons and the progressive Democrat Party, because the Democrat Party is progressive, okay? I mean, who knows? I mean, I guess you could say that maybe there's more in common with the moderate Democrats and the neocons, but again, the Democrat Party is not a moderate party anymore, and I think that that's what people need to understand. There is no such thing as a moderate Democrat. Even the most moderate Democrat, somebody like a Joe Manchin, by the standards of maybe 20, 30 years ago, he probably would have been considered to be a solid liberal, okay? The only reason he's considered to be moderate is because the Democrat Party, again, has become so progressive that people like Joe Manchin are considered to be moderate, okay? That's them trying to shift the Overton window to the left. So, it's important that the party is united. And I think this is part of the reason why Trump has went to Ron DeSantis and tried to patch up their relationship, because he knows ultimately at the end of the day, he's going to need all the support he can get. The Republican Party has to be together in order to win. And this could be the reason why this rumor was floated out here, okay? Because maybe, just maybe, Trump is trying to give Nikki Haley a signal that, hey, you're more than welcome to join the party, right? You're more than welcome to try to help us take back this country, even though you're upset that Trump is not promising to be a full-blown neocon, which again is what Nikki Haley really wants, okay? She really wants Trump to come out here and to promise to give unlimited support and taxpayer dollars to Ukraine and Israel in exchange for her endorsement. So, with that being said, Trump has already come out here and denied the rumors that he is considering Nikki Haley as a VP. So let's read here. Donald Trump is denying new reporting, claiming that Nikki Haley is under active consideration to be his 2024 running mate after Axios broke the stunning news on Saturday that people familiar with the details said Haley, the last Republican to withdraw from the primary, was on Trump's short list. He took to Truth Social to deny it, but not bombastically. Quote, Nikki Haley is not under consideration for the VP slot, he wrote, but I wish her well. Donald J. Trump. Yeah, so again, you have to keep in mind that Trump is not trashing Nikki Haley the way that he was during the primary when he was calling her bird brain and all types of other stuff. And again, that could be for a reason, because again, this could have been put out there as a way to, again, signal to Nikki Haley, listen, let's try to come together to beat the Democrats. That doesn't mean that you're going to be VP, but it just means that, hey, we need your supporters, right? We need your endorsement. You need to come out here and to help us win, okay? So, again, he's not trying to attack Nikki Haley, and he shouldn't try to attack Nikki Haley because, Nikki Haley's supporters, even though a lot of them are Democrats and independents, a lot of them are Republicans as well, too. And you really don't want to create unnecessary bad blood that will make these people decide not to vote out of spite, right? And again, that's why he met with Ron DeSantis to try to clear things up, to say, hey, you know what, we need to get on board, okay, with taking down the Biden administration, because a lot of DeSantis supporters are upset. They're mad that DeSantis lost. They feel like he's the real conservative, the true conservative, even though I don't think that Ron DeSantis has a shot at winning in a general election. He actually was the most unelectable throughout the primary season. When you look at the general election polls, Ron DeSantis, like, frequently, consistently was polling the worst against Joe Biden. So Trump, I think, is trying to clear some bad blood here, but he's doing it in a way that's subtle. In his report, Axios cited two people familiar with the dynamic who confirmed that Trump was considering Haley. The report added the GOP rivals' relationship remains chilly, but Trump could pick Haley if he were convinced she'd help him win the presidency, avoid a potential prison sentence, and cover tens of millions in legal bills if he loses. Well, I mean, the prison sentence is kind of out of the question at this point, right? Like, that's probably not going to happen, okay? So she wouldn't be useful for that. Now, again, her fundraising would be useful. And again, this is not something I'm actively cheering on, but ultimately this is politics today, is that, hey, you have to raise a ton of money in order to be competitive. It's unfortunate, but, you know, she did raise a whole lot of money, right? I mean, these people burnt their money on fire, but hey, you know, she knows how to raise money. Haley dropped out of the presidential race in March, saying, quote, in all likelihood, Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee when our party convention meets in July. I congratulate him and wish him well. I wish anyone well who would be America's president. Our country is too precious to let our differences divide us. Okay, well, if she really believes that, then she should come out here and to endorse Trump and to get her voters in line. However, she failed to publicly endorse Trump despite the RNC's loyalty pledge. Haley said, yeah, so again, if she doesn't come out here and endorse Trump, that once again confirms that her word doesn't mean anything, okay? Because Nikki Haley promised that, hey, if Trump runs in a GOP primary, I'm not going to run against him. But she broke that promise. So if she decides not to come out here and to openly endorse Trump and to help him win, that's another promise that she broke. And that would basically mean that Nikki Haley's word doesn't mean anything. You can't believe anything that comes out of her mouth, right? Again, not a good look for her, not a good look for the future of her political career. Haley served as Trump's ambassador to the United Nations, yet he famously nicknamed her bird brain when she ran against him for the GOP nomination. Trump has made no effort to reach out to Haley or her voters, according to the New York Times, after saying in January that Haley's donors would be permanently barred from the MAGA camp. At least one Fox News pundit said Trump should not have reacted so quickly to denounce the Haley report.
Go, guys. Okay. Let me jump right in, Jonathan, and get your reaction to something, because early this morning we all woke up to read our Axios, and we learned that Nikki Haley all of a sudden is back in play. And then a few hours later, former President Trump takes to social media and says, Nikki Haley is not under consideration for the VP slot, but I wish her well. What do you make of it?
I think it was a bad move for him. I think he should have played this out a little longer, let the speculation grow. It may have helped him with some of her supporters who he's losing. I mean, he just lost 150,000 of them in Indiana, a similar number in Pennsylvania and Florida. These are key states where he can't afford to lose 150,000 votes to one of his competitors. I will give him credit. He was a lot nicer to her on Truth Social than he normally had been during the campaign. There was no bird brain reference. So he is learning, and maybe he is making some overtures to it. But that's a real problem for him when you have that many people going out to vote against you for a candidate who's not even in the race anymore and hasn't been for months.
Well, you got a point there, Jonathan. Joe, what do you make of that?
Well, look, I think certainly it came up because there are people around President Trump who recognize that, more importantly, he needs to consolidate the party even more, but also to this notion of weakness with suburban women. And I think if you're looking at what is the difference between President Trump winning by 78,000 votes across 3 states in 2016 and then losing by approximately 48 to 50,000 votes 4 years later, it is that exodus of suburban women. And so I think there are people trying to nudge President Trump towards a pick that helps him shore up that base and make sure that he can actually have a cleaner pathway to beating President Biden here in 2024.
Yeah, so again, the idea is that, well, Trump should pick Nikki Haley to help him out with women voters, mainly women voters in states that he had lost in 2020, but he had previously won in 2016, like Pennsylvania, some of these Rust Belt states. And again, that's the idea behind it. However, I will push back against that because I think that Nikki Haley is not pickable because she took too much damage and got exposed too much in the primary to the point where I think if Trump actually picked Nikki Haley, the base would revolt, okay? And the VP pick is going to be very interesting because Trump's going to have to thread a needle here, okay? If he picks a neocon, then he's going to risk losing some support from the base, although I don't think it would be that much support. However, it will be extremely concerning because Trump is getting up there in age, and Lord forbid anything happened to him while he's in office. But again, there's always a chance. You just never know when you're talking about, somebody in their late 70s, early 80s, what could happen. And also, you're talking about somebody that can be the future of the party because Trump only has 4 years, right? So the VP pick is somebody that, preferably would take the America First movement to the next level, okay, that would carry it on in the future after Trump. That's not a Nikki Haley, okay? I don't think that's a Tim Scott. I don't think that it's a lot of these people, the neocons, that apparently are under consideration, right? So with that being said, again, you also still need somebody that can help you gain new voters or to potentially win back the voters that Trump lost in 2020. Again, mainly in the Rust Belt states. And I want to talk about this dark horse sleeper pick that I think actually could help Trump do that without him having to play identity politics. And I think that that potential pick could be J.D. Vance, the senator, Republican senator from Ohio. And the reason why I say this is because if Trump wants to win back the Rust Belt, which he is focused on doing that, J.D. Vance is that guy, right? In the sense that he is MAGA, he is American First. He also is very close to Vivek Ramaswamy. They both attended Yale together. He's actually good friends with Vivek. They have some very similar policy positions. He's not a neocon. And I think that, honestly, somebody like him could help Trump win the Rust Belt, right? It could help Trump win some of these states like a Michigan, a Wisconsin, a Pennsylvania. He has that type of vibe and that type of appeal that I think will work for trying to win back those voters. And also at the same time, he's a guy that I believe ideologically could take the movement to the next level, and it could also carry it in the future. So I just want to talk about this for a little bit. I want to play this clip here of Caitlin Collins asking Vance about Trump potentially picking him as VP because I think people should get more familiar with J.D. Vance because I do think that he's a sleeper dark horse pick, especially if Trump decides to not pay attention to identity politics, which at this point I would kind of prefer for him not to, right? And just pick the best guy for the job to help him win the election that, again, can also carry the movement into the future, that ideologically is aligned with Trump. So I think J.D. Vance could be that guy.
Let me ask you something else, because as I mentioned, there is an open question of who Donald Trump will pick to be his vice presidential candidate. We just heard him talking about Marco Rubio. You're hosting a fundraiser with him in your home state of Ohio later this month. I know you say that you two haven't discussed the vice presidency directly, but you said you'd certainly be open to it if he did offer it to you. Considering that, does it give you any pause whatsoever about taking that job when you see how he treated his last vice president?
Well, Caitlin, first of all, again, I haven't talked to Donald Trump about becoming vice president. I think it's important to support President Trump as Republicans because I think he was a good president. And I think that he made the country more prosperous. And I think he made the world more peaceful. What gives me pause, Caitlin, is another 4 years of Biden's administration where he's opened the borders and where you have effectively a conflict, a major world conflict in nearly every continent in the world.
But my question was not about President Biden. It's about President Trump.
Well, look, it's fundamentally about President Biden because if you're comparing the two records of these presidents and asking, who do I want to be president? It's very clearly that I want Donald Trump to be president. And I understand that there are a lot of things that people like you disagree that he did, but I think fundamentally he was a good president. He accomplished a lot for the country. And the question fundamentally for our country is, do we want 4 more years of Joe Biden or do we want 4 more years of the peace and prosperity of Donald Trump? That to me is an easy question.
You know what's funny about this is that Caitlin Collins, again, because she's at CNN, she's playing a character. She probably agrees a lot more with Trump, right, than she is letting on here, okay? Because she used to be on the conservative side of the aisle until she sold her soul to CNN. But essentially, JD Vance here is saying, look, if it's between Biden and Trump, I'm going with Trump. And he does a great job here of kind of redirecting this conversation away from Trump, because that's what she's trying to do. She's trying to get him to trash Trump. And he focuses on Biden. And that's something that's really important that people got to understand about the VP. The job of the VP is to be the president's cheerleader, right? I mean, this is why Kamala is such a terrible VP, because she sucks, right, at promoting the Biden agenda, right? This is why they've had to roll out Gavin Newsom to be the cheerleader of the Biden administration, is because Kamala Harris is just really bad at the job, right? I mean, effectively, Gavin Newsom is the VP when it comes to the main role of the VP, which is to support the president and to make the president look good, right? So this is important, right? Trump's going to have to pick somebody that is good at dealing with the media. JD Vance, Byron Donalds, okay, would also be a pick that I would be very happy about. He's also MAGA as well, too. And I think, unlike Tim Scott, I think that Byron Donalds actually probably would help Trump out with the black vote for a number of reasons. But, yeah, I mean, I want to see somebody like a JD Vance, a Byron Donalds, a young guy who, again, is ideologically aligned with MAGA enough to carry the movement into the future. But again, dealing with the media, having experience dealing with the media is going to be a big part of the job.
The last time I checked, President Biden wasn't approving of the chance to hang his vice president, and did not call his vice president when their life was in danger on Capitol Hill, something that Mike Pence himself has testified to. So my question is, does it give you any pause to be his vice president, given how he has treated Mike Pence?
Caitlin, I'm extremely skeptical that Mike Pence's life was ever in danger. I think politics people like to really exaggerate things from time to time.
I know a lot of folks in the Democratic Party, Senator.
A lot of folks in the Democratic Party, Caitlin, act as if January the 6th was the scariest moment of their lives. I think, look, January 6th was a bad day. It was a riot. But the idea that Donald Trump endangered anyone's lives when he told them to protest peacefully, it's just absurd. And the entire legal basis of this prosecution of Donald Trump
but they
from
were
Jack
chanting
Smith,
that they wanted to hang him.
Look, Caitlin, did a few people say some bad things? Sure, but do we blame Donald Trump for every bad thing that's ever been said by a participant in American democracy? I think that's an absurd standard.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you were to blame the Democrat Party for the pro-Hamas supporters in their base, I'm pretty sure CNN and MSNBC would disagree with that, even though I can say that, hey, maybe they should take some blame, considering how Democrats are responsible for a lot of the extremism in their party. They were totally fine and totally okay with this extremism until it started to hurt them politically. So again, interviews like this are good interviews to go over, because it really does show you how some of Trump's potential VP candidates handle the media, which again is going to be a fundamental part of the job.
And look, Caitlin, I know you're worried, and I think justifiably so, about
this isn't about me, Senator. I'm asking questions about you and how you would feel about this.
I'm trying to answer the question. I appreciate if you let me. We know that there are threats to American democracy. I think the biggest threat to American democracy, Caitlin, is that the Biden administration is trying to prevent Donald Trump from campaigning and taking his case to the American people, even as they hide their own candidate.
That's presiding over that case. The Biden administration is not preventing Donald Trump from campaigning. He just did two campaign events tonight.
This is a really important point, Caitlin. Who is the number 3 person from the Biden Department of Justice who went to work for the New York prosecutor just months before he brought this case against Donald Trump? You can't have people moving from the Biden administration to prosecute Donald Trump in New York and say it has nothing to do with the Biden administration, especially when the judge is the Biden administration donor.
Attorneys go from the Justice Department to local DA's offices all the time. That's not that unusual. I mean, you're an attorney, you know that.
It's pretty unusual.
You probably have colleagues who went to Yale with you that did that.
It's pretty unusual for the number 3 person in the Department of Justice to then go to the New York prosecutor's office to bring a bogus case against Donald Trump, and then to have the judge presiding over that case to be a donor to Biden-Harris. I think that's pretty unusual, Caitlin, and really is, aside from your views or anyone else's views about Donald Trump, this is a real threat to Americans' trust in the legal system. If you look at polling, even a lot of folks who are going to vote for Joe Biden think that the lawfare against Donald Trump is bogus. We're destroying faith in the American system of law and order to try to bring down Joe Biden's political opponent. That's a threat to democracy.
It's a jury of his peers that indicted him, and a jury of his peers that are in that room right now and will decide this case. Senator J.D. Vance, thank you for joining us here on The Source.
Yeah. So you can kind of see what JD Vance is made of here. Again, I think that Trump's pick ultimately is probably going to be somebody like that, right? It's going to be maybe a Doug Burgum or, somebody that is not going to hurt him too much, but is going to help, again, in those key states, right? I mean, I hate to go back to what Ann Couture was saying. For as much as people want to talk about Trump picking somebody to help him out with, the black vote or the Latino vote or whatever, what the elections really do come down to is swings in the white vote, right? Who's actually going to help him out with middle America, right? Who's going to help him out with, these working class white folks, right? White people in middle America, right? That is actually really what the election comes down to be quite honest with you. And again, somebody like a JD Vance or Doug Burgum could probably help him do that. And that's probably the direction that he's going to go in. I have no idea. I'm just saying, if I was him, that's where my head would be, right? Even though I don't think that any pick that he makes outside of a Nikki Haley or some really, really, really kind of, crazy neocon can hurt him. I just think that, in regards to the states that he really needs to focus on, again, those Rust Belt states is what he really should be thinking about when it comes to his VP pick. Who can speak to those people? Who can help him win over those people? And he may just go in that direction. I have no idea. But overall, I think that this Nikki Haley report is really just him trying to give a wink and a nod to Nikki Haley. Look, you need to get on board with, getting behind the agenda because your supporters continue to vote against me in a primary, and we need everybody on board to save this country. Are you going to put the country first, or are you going to put your hurt feelings first, right? What are you going to do, right? So, hey, I don't know, but that's just my guess. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.